Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a pure 12 Paladin Oath of Vengeance build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. We won't be multi-classing, and I can assure you this is still extremely powerful utilizing the items and gear that we have in this video. So with the Paladin here, we'll start off with the Oath of Vengeance, which I believe to be the strongest subclass other than the Oath of the Crown. I just did a video ranking the different subclasses, so I'll link that in the description, but our ability scores, we want to focus on either strength or dexterity. This is really important because there's actually a really good early game dexterity weapon, Valor at Louvre, that we can grab. And dexterity is super overpowered in Baldur's Gate 3 because initiative is a 1d4 die. So if you get a high dexterity, you're likely to go first. And going first is very important in this game. So it's dependent on what you want to build around. You can use strength or dexterity. This would be the build here if you want to use strength-based weapons. However, I'm going to use a dexterity-based build, or I guess kind of a combination of both of these, just because you can also utilize strength potions, and there's other strength-boosting gear in the game. So I'm going to go around dexterity, as I find that Valor at Louvre is actually a really good early game weapon, and you can put your stat spread, 16 dex, 14 constitution, 16 charisma. This +3 dexterity is a +3 to our initiative, which means that we're much more likely to go first. I know this build isn't about multi-classing, but a single level dip in the Hexblade Warlock can be nice because then you could use Charisma and you get Booming Blade, but we're going to stick to just Paladin for this video. Level 2 gives us our most powerful abilities with Divine Smite. Make sure to set these as a reaction, they get really, really strong. Now for our fighting style, I think defense just ends up being the absolute best. +1 armor class is usable in a lot of different situations. However, if you like to use two-handed weapons, go with great weapon fighting, but you're going to have to be spec'd into strength to get the most out of that. If you want, dueling can be okay for the +2 damage, but I think that a +1 armor class just is good on any type of build. And then for our spells that we'll be going with, Command is an essential one, and later on in the game we can actually cast this as a bonus action, and this is one of the most broken spells in the game. We'll also grab Bless. If you don't have anyone else on the team that can do Bless, I also like to have these smites, even though we're not going to be utilizing these smites as they eat up your bonus action, and Divine Smite's just going to be a lot better in every possible way. So you can even grab Cure Wounds, but we have Lay Hands to heal with as well. Shield of Faith can be a nice concentration early game to give you a +2 to armor class, which helps out a lot with survivability. And the nice thing about the Paladin spell list is we can swap these out at any time. Now, one of the most powerful abilities here is Vow of Enmity. You gain advantage on attack rolls against an enemy. However, this works if you apply it to yourself. And then if you do that, for 10 turns, you have advantage on every attack roll. That is crazy. So we're going to utilize that. Always cast it on yourself, and it uses your channel oath in a bonus action. The Abjure enemy can be okay at times. It does have a pretty large radius, but not going to be that great as Vow of Enmity. Now, we also have Hunter's Mark, which is really good early game damage because that adds a 1d6 damage whenever you attack with a weapon attack. And once you get to level 5, that's going to be an additional 2d6 in damage, and you can keep reapplying that to different enemies. So that's really good too. Divine Favor can be okay if you want to add a bit radiant damage to your weapon. That really, the spell list for Paladin is not super essential outside of Command and a few others that we'll be getting at level 5. So for our first feat, I would actually recommend going with either the Alert feat for that +5 to our initiative. If you want, you can go with Great Weapon Master, although you have a low hit chance. With the Vow of Enmity, you can actually give yourself the option to give yourself a advantage on the attack. So yeah, Vow of Enmity is really good in this situation. But I think that Alert is a bit more beneficial because going first is just very important, as mentioned. That's why we went higher with our dexterity, or I guess in my particular case, went higher with dexterity. However, you can also go with an improvement to like your dex or your constitution as well, depending on what you spec around. I'm going to grab the Alert feat because I just think that not being surprised is really good, especially early game when you can be so devastating. Level 5, huge power spike. Every class gets a power spike at level 5, or most of them do, but this one's even stronger because we get our extra attacks, now 2 attacks, but we also get Hold Person, which is a really good spell, and Misty Step, so we can bonus action teleport to an enemy. Sometimes if we don't have enough movement speed, we can actually get there with this. And Hold Person, extremely powerful. Critical hits mean that not only do we get an extra damage die on our melee attacks, our Divine Smite damage gets an additional die as well. Hold Person gives you automatic critical hits against enemies. It's a really good spell. I highly recommend using it. Now for our level 2 spells, we can grab Branding Smite, which if there's an enemy turning invisible, you can utilize that against them. 8 is also pretty good, but it's better with a higher level spellcaster because they can give you upwards of like 25 extra health. For level 2, we get our level 6, we get Aura of Protection. This is extremely powerful. It's also nice to get a higher charisma if possible because this will give you bonuses to your saving throws. It's only a 3-meter radius though, so it's not very large, but that's a really big boost because saving throws are super important for resisting spells and a bunch of other things. So we would like to take that and have our teammates nearby if possible. Now, our spell list doesn't really matter too much, honestly. Divine Smite, Hold Person, Command, and Misty Step are our core 5. Now, the Vengeance Paladin actually gets the weakest level 7 ability with Relentless Avenger. If you hit an enemy with an opportunity attack, your movement speed increases by 4.5 meters in your next turn. Cool. That's all right. Giving you extra movement speed if you hit an opportunity attack is nice. We want to try and proc those if possible. So once we get to level 8, we could even take the sentinel feed. So when an enemy within melee range attacks an enemy ally, you can use a reaction to make a weapon attack against that enemy. And you also get advantage on opportunity attacks, and if you hit them with an opportunity attack, they cannot move. So this can be really good pairing here. Also, again, going with a dexterity improvement or a strength improvement can work great too, but I do think that adding in the sentinel feed, even going with something like the savage attacker, which can reroll your damage die, and your reroll smite's damage die is really effective as well. If you don't want to go with the dexterity or strength improvement, sentinel, savage attacker, those are two really good choices. So I'm going to grab sentinel here just because there's a specific weapon that we can utilize to make this really powerful. At level 9, we get one of the most powerful spells in the game with haste. Now haste, when you use it on yourself, you get another action. So it's a free action to cast haste on yourself, but it also doubles your movement speed. It gives you +2 to your armor class. And then on your next turn, you can do attack, 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 attack. If you're in honor mode, however, just a little heads up there, you do attack, attack, and then only one extra attack. You can also put this on a spellcaster, and you can hold the concentration on it. And then the spellcaster can cast 2 spells, which is really powerful, or 3 if they're a sorcerer. Now, we got level 3 spells here. Again, nothing super important. Elemental weapon can be nice, although it holds your concentration. You can add cold damage to your weapon, use a snowburst string. I can take blinding smite. I mean, it's not really that great. It adds a 3d8 radiant damage, but it eats your bonus action. And revivify. I mean, there's scrolls of revivify everywhere. Crusader's Mantle could be nice if you have a team that wants to build around radiant damage, but again, not essential. You can take it, but yeah, we're mostly going to be using our spells for those 3, for Misty Step, Divine Smite, Command, and Hold Person. Level 11 is great because now we get an additional 1d8 of radiant damage on all of our melee attacks. That is huge. So yeah, no matter what we do, we're going to be applying radiant damage and possibly radiating orbs. And level 12, we get to take one final feat. Now, as I mentioned, you could do a Hexblade dip. This gives you Booming Blade, Charisma scaling on your weapon, so you can use anything, and you just have to focus on Charisma. And for the feat that we could have taken previously, you could have went with Charisma increase. I like that way as well, but I'm doing something a little different here because this is actually going to maximize our damage. Sentinel with Savage Attacker, this rerolls our damage die. Again, it'll reroll our smites too, so we flat out do a lot more damage with this feat. You can also, again, go with your improvement to your strength or dexterity as well, but we're going to roll with this. And before I forget, the Amontor die here is what I have on the armor persistence here. It's from Faerun Colors. So if you want to recreate this look, it's just using base game items and that die. Alright, so we have a lot of different gear that's great. The Helmet of Arcane Acuity can help us with landing our spells. So whenever we do a melee attack, we get +2 to our spell save DC. Currently, our spell save DC is sitting at 15, so we can get a +10 to that, putting it to 25. And then people aren't going to be able to resist our Hold Person or our commands. So this is really great. However, if you're in the early game, Haste Helmet can be pretty useful. Getting extra movement speed is always a nice thing. Even the Mask of Soul Perception, which will give you a +2 to your attack rolls and initiative, making sure that we go first and also that we land our attacks. And also the Scabby Pugilist Circlet can give you the ability to do additional damage if you're surrounded, or the Steel Watcher Helmet can let you see in magical darkness, which is extremely overpowered, but doesn't really fit the theme of this build. The Cloak of Protection, best armor class, +1. And it's really up to you for cloaks, because there's not that many in the game. Armor Persistence is going to be the best in slot for heavy armor. However, for dexterity base, the Armor of Agility can also give you something comparable, and if you went with an increase to your dexterity, you'd also get a bit more damage out of it. So this is kind of what I was mentioning about the strength. I'm using a strength potion currently. To get our dexterity up higher, I put got a +3 to the modifier there, but you can also have the 16 dex and then 10 strength there. But I'm just using a strength potion to show off the maximum potential potency of this build, and it's actually really easy to get strength potions. But really, best available armor, Act 1, Adamantine Scale Mail is great. Just really whatever you have of best available for medium or heavy armor. No real super important ones until you get to the late game, with Armor Persistence being the best because it gives you Blade Ward and Resistance, so you're much more tanky. I also really like the Luminous Gloves because whenever you do any type of attack, since we get that 1d8 of radiant damage, we'll be applying radiating orbs on our attack. So this can be really effective because if you want to be able to debuff the enemy, radiating orbs gives the enemy a -2 to their attack rolls. Effectively, that's like giving your team a +2 to their armor class against that one target, which is really good. Now, we can also use the Gloves of the Belligerent Skies here, which will attack. Whenever we do our attacks, we apply Reverberation, which can knock the target prone once they get 5 stacks of it. They have to do a dexterity save and they'll take thunder damage or get knocked prone. This is great because you can actually knock enemies prone on their turn and they'll just skip their turn. I have the evasive shoes on, but if we want to do actual reverberation, we can go with the boots of stormy clamor, because when you apply a condition, which radiating orb is a condition, we'll apply 2 turns of reverberation. So that's really great. Now the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel is so good here, because once we do a melee attack, we can then do hold person or command as a bonus action. So that is extremely effective. And then we also have the Ring of Protection, but the Killer Sweetheart gives you a free crit. Caustic Band can just give you additional damage on your attacks. You could even use something like the Elemental Weapon and the Snowburst Ring for ice surfaces below the enemies, although you'd want boots to protect yourself from slipping. The Ring of Free Action is also great, giving yourself the extra movement whenever there's difficult terrain around. And also, this is good if you took the Hexblade dip, which I'm not covering in this video, but that'll add your Charisma modifier to your weapon attack damage, which is really nice. I get the Sword of Chaos here, which will heal us on attack, which is extremely useful. However, I think that the Halberd of Vigilance ends up being a little bit better here, because this gives you a bonus to your initiative. When you make an attack roll as a reaction, you make it with advantage. So this is just kind of the sentinel weapon, because you get extra movements, or you get extra range with this weapon. It's just really good. It gives you a 1d4 bonus to force. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I like about this weapon. That's why I'm going to pair it here. But I'm using a strength potion, so ideally the Baldur and Giant Slayer would be good. As mentioned, you can use the Fowler Alluve in the early game. This is a dexterity or strength weapon. It also has the Melody, which will apply radiant damage on the enemies, which is extremely useful. Nyrulna works here as well. It's a very powerful weapon. And then you can use Reverberation because it does extra thunder damage. And then even things like Sethin can be alright if you built around strength. And even Shar Spear of the Evening, which gives you the ability to set up darkness. But that's not really the theming of this build. I'm going to use this here because I think this weapon just fits thematically. Do not forget to pop your Aura of Protection here. You can also use the Birthright Hat, I guess. This will get our Charisma modifier up to a +4, so you can give even better saves. And if you want to save your bonus action, you can apply the Vow of Enmity to yourself to give yourself that advantage on all attacks right before you get into a fight, which will last probably for the full fight because you're not going past 10 turns. Also, go into your Reactions tab and make sure that you put Divine Smite on critical hit so that you're able to actually apply your Divine Smites whenever you do attacks and even your opportunity attacks. So this can greatly up your damage. Now for our first turn in combat, I guess I didn't restore the bonus action. You can apply haste to yourself. I have someone else that applied haste so that I could showcase this build a little bit better because I wanted to hold my concentration on hold person. So honestly, Divine Smite is really the best way to go about this. See, we got a 99% hit chance because of our advantage on attacks. We didn't take him out, but we applied 4 turns of Radiating Orbs because Smites actually count extra in terms of damage. So we can just go with a normal attack here. Boom, that was enough to take them out with our extra radiant damage. Amazing. I will then go ahead with my second action here and then attack with a Divine Smite. I should have probably upcasted that. I went for the crit to knock him out. Yeah, that extra radiant damage is crazy. And then I guess for our final attack here, you can use another Divine Smite. This one has lower health, so I probably don't need it, but we'll go for it anyways. Now, we get, if I had my bonus action, I could have done Hold Person or Command on these enemies, but I accidentally wasted it on the Vow of Enmity, so yeah, it gets crazier. Another awesome thing is we have Arcane Acuity stacked up, so that gives us our spell save DC up to 22 now, so we're much more likely to land it. I would recommend just going after the high value target, so any type of spellcaster is going to be high on your list of targets that you want to remove. And again, Divine Smite is going to be our best option for that. I'd recommend upcasting anytime that there's a target with a bit more health than what you're able to take out. So we'll again go ahead here. This gives us 10 Arcane Acuity. So yeah, we're basically able to one-shot anybody, or basically able to land all of our spells now. I'll use a level 2 spell slot on this target. The Paladin's playstyle is literally about Divine Smiting everybody. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Going around, we weren't able to actually take that target out, unfortunate, but we also have a follow-up attack that we can do. So I now have the quickened incantation here, so what I can do is go ahead with either Hold Person or Command. If you have someone with Spirit Guardians, I like to use the Command approach here, and you can also upcast this. Use this on any spellcaster that's going to be a pain, and that's going to take them out of the fight at least. So we'll go with these 3 targets here, and get counterspelled, lovely. And on our third turn here, again, Divine Smite's going to be our answer to pretty much every problem that we have. This target did not get taken out. That's fine. We can slash away again. And then follow up with, you guessed it, another Divine Smite. So bonk. That was enough. And you know what? I'm just going to tell this guy to come here. I don't want to step too close because I actually can't. I actually only have level 3 spell slots. So that's unfortunate. I burned through my spell slots too quickly. So yeah, normally you'd want to apply this to 2 other targets, but he's the only target. So I'll just do a little flex there, Command Approach. And then we just skip our turns. He runs up on me. Again, this is super useful if you have the ability to have Spirit Guardians up because they can just run into your attacks. And we don't have any smites left, but that doesn't matter. So there's an OP Pure 12 Oath of Vengeance Paladin build in Baldur's Gate 3. If this video is useful, please hit the subscribe button below, and I'll catch you all in the next video.